Welcome to Whiskey Movie Club. This week, we're talking Ford V Ferrari and drinking Michters Small Batch American Whiskey.
But as long as there is whiskey in the world.
All right, I haven't even cut the thingy off of this.
First of all, how much did it cost?
Oh, we should talk about this. So, Michters is actually kind of a, it's in most bars. It's not an uncommon whiskey. I chose this because it is their American whiskey, and I feel like Ford v Ferrari is a very American movie that celebrates America. The only thing missing was bald eagles, American flags, and jet skis.
Tamarack and free.
Yes. So yeah, it was I think $45 at Total Wine, which means
much more expensive than the Jack from last week.
Well, so okay, the
And
Jack
a lot less.
This is
Price per
750
quantity.
milliliters. The Jack from last week was half the price almost for 1.75 liters, or as you put it,
1.75 Farvas.
Farvas, yes. Farvas. This is, I believe this is half a Farva.
Half a Farva.
No, 3/4 of a Farva, right? I don't know, metric. This is America.
It's like a third of a
We don't do
bushel.
metric. It's a bushel of whiskey.
It's $45 of unapologetic American whiskey.
I'm okay with this.
All right, we're
That's
going to crack
fine.
this open. I'm looking at it, and it looks like a wooden cork with a proper cork. You guys know how I'm with cork.
I do know.
You're very particular about your cork.
For those ASMR people, let's get that proper sound.
Are there ASMR people?
There's a lot of them, but they're not watching this.
Yeah, I was
fucking
gonna
show.
say. I mean, here right now.
No, we might as well just call this belligerent movie club. All right, let's
We'll premiere that after the Puppet Movie Club
And
coming in 2022.
Puppy Movie Club.
And
Puppy Movie Club.
There's a whole docket.
Coming in
next.
2021.
We're gonna be the next Disney, just releasing something every month and a half.
All right, quiet down. We're gonna. It's cork time.
Cork time.
Cork time.
Cork it. Ooh!
Was that
That was a
not,
good one.
That
so
was
satisfying?
a good
Very
one.
satisfying.
That was super satisfying.
I really liked that one.
You want to smell the whiskey?
Always.
That is.
Would you like to smell the cork like some douchey
Always.
wine person?
Well, not
A
more.
sommelier. They're called sommeliers.
Are they called sommeliers?
Yes.
Yes.
Not to be confused with Somalis.
Somalian? I knew you were gonna go there.
Salamanders.
It's the South.
Jesus.
All right, so Travis, you get first pour
Oh, thank you, sir.
because you are a gentleman. You tell me when.
Dirty lies. That's good.
All right.
You went for a while after you said that's
So
good.
you're gonna mix yours with ginger beer, right?
Sorry, ASMR.
Oh, ASMR. Yes. Yes. I feel like we gotta do
Did
that.
you do that? Hold on. Here you go.
Don't they do all
So
the
what do
sounds?
you stop?
do.
Stop.
I feel
Just
like we have
stop.
to rub something with our fingers.
Nope.
Oh, that's just dirty. That's good. But wait.
Is that giving you those tinkly feelings?
It is not.
And that's when we got demonetized from YouTube.
All right, here we go.
You're gonna make a mess, man. This is all you do
Yeah,
every
I'm just
time.
gonna
You
pour it
just
all over
spill it
myself.
all over yourself.
That's when the microphone got ruined.
Oh God, I cannot do. I should probably face this that way in case they decide they want to sponsor us. They don't. They won't.
Nobody ever does.
But
They might like our Instagram posts, though.
all right.
Which people often do.
We do.
yes.
Okay.
Actually, it smells really good. It
It does.
smells kind of fruity. It smells kind of like kind of dried fruit, raisins,
Yeah.
You know?
something.
desserty.
I'm mixing mine with ginger beer.
Does
so
yours
we'll
smell
see.
like ginger beer?
It
Does
does,
that have
in
a
fact,
sharp
smell like
ginger smell
beer.
to you?
It's almost like this whiskey smells like ginger and a little bit like beer.
Shocking.
Oh, it's so weird.
Tastes good, though.
Does it?
It's very smooth.
Whoa, that's weird.
That is weird.
Because it hits you initially like a rye whiskey, where it's kind of like got that spicy sharpness, and then it just like
Yeah.
mellows
just-
out.
Do you guys want to try it
Goes
with
away.
the ginger beer?
Is it good?
I mean, I never had ginger beer and whiskey before, but it's different. It's not bad. It's not like my particular drink that I would always get, but it's different.
All I'm tasting is the ginger beer, and that's not a bad thing because ginger beer is delicious.
Yeah.
Ginger beer is delicious.
Yeah.
You
I won't say that's going to replace a Moscow Mule for me,
Yeah, I agree.
but if someone was like, what's it called, an Irish Mule?
An
With
Irish Mule.
With whiskey and ginger beer, I'd be like, oh, okay.
I could drink a lot of those really quick.
Because ginger beer is delicious.
It's perfect. All right, so I mean, this is pretty good. What do you think about for? It's $45. I think it's pretty tasty. It's interesting.
It's pretty tasty. I think we've had. It's a little bit on the steep side comparatively to some of the other whiskeys we've had on the show, but I'd say it's good. It's
different.
Trying something different and you want to spend the $45, it's worth a try.
And Michters is a pretty well-known American brand of whiskey. I'm sorry, you were going to ask a question.
I mean, I'm the one who's going to cut you guys off, so that's fine. But what is the most expensive whiskey you guys have ever done on the show?
We try and keep it under $50.
Okay, that makes sense.
Because we like what we drink to be accessible to you.
Oh, the viewer.
Yes, it's not because we're poor.
It's a little that as well.
A little bit because we're poor.
So I think the most expensive one, 50-50. Probably Redbreast. I think that's one of the more expensive ones. So that's around $70, I think.
Okay.
I think that one might be the more expensive. And it's worth every goddamn penny.
Yeah. That one we've said multiple times has been our favorite.
Redbreast, please sponsor us because, I mean, I'll wear your shirts, your hats for the right price.
Excuse just to drink more Redbreast?
I'll get a tattoo anywhere.
No, he won't. He's lying to you.
I don't know
that
that
he
he
is.
is. I don't know that he is.
I do like the stars around it.
And you know what I love about this?
What? Oh,
USA 1.
well, US 1. There's no A.
USA.
Quack.
Disney's going to sue.
This feels like a very American whiskey. Like this feels like I
like
don't
the
know,
label.
patriotic.
I like the blue and the reds.
I mean, all their whiskeys kind of have the same look. It's a well-designed bottle. And there's some. It looks like a traditional whiskey bottle, but then there's some slight variations. The angles are a little bit different. The way it thickens up here. It's they put a lot of thought into this, but they didn't overdo it. Like what was the one? Clyde Mays.
Yeah, that one had a lot of typography on the front of the
Yeah,
bottle. I believe I described it as making Mary in marketing happy.
Mary in marketing.
She'd been working on her cursive. This is simple, which I
clean.
like because there's been a lot of studies that have proven that a lot of people who don't know much about liquor, which, let's be honest, is a big amount of people who drink.
Including everyone on this show.
Yes, I know nothing
Yes.
about liquor. Do not come for me
Self-included.
if you also know nothing about liquor, because I do not know anything. If it tastes good, hey, yay, I'm in the Leslie Knope Club of bring me the cheapest bottle of white wine that you have, because I don't know the difference. I am in that club 100% for sure.
I feel like we need to just call this the Deep Cuts.
The
TV
Deep Cut
movie
Club.
show.
That's right after Puppy and Puppet and...
Or we just sit around making references to TV shows.
I would watch that, to be honest. But
No, but
anyways,
it's clean.
It's clean, and that's what I appreciate about it, because I am definitely that person that picks their liquor or their wine or their beer dependent on if the label satisfies me.
And one of the things bourbon is about its history, right? Like it's a historic, American liquor, and it's steeped in legend and history, and they capture that really well. It is pre-Revolutionary War quality. I'm not sure what that means.
Racist bourbon. They're not going to sponsor us now.
Dysentery bourbon.
It's that Oregon Trail bourbon.
Throwing your sewage into the street
I do
bourbon.
appreciate-
Pre-Revolutionary War. It's still under the colonies. It's part of the
But here's the
Commonwealth.
thing, it wasn't even bourbon at the time. It wasn't called bourbon until after the Revolution. Did you know? Most people they think bourbon is named after Bourbon because of Bourbon County, but it's actually bourbon from Bourbon Street in New Orleans because it was shipped down the Mississippi River, and that's where everyone drank it.
And I've learned something today.
Although,
Mississippi?
as with what's that? This is from Mississippi.
No, I'm sorry. I was making a
Another
reference
deep
to
cut.
Friends. I was making
Another real deep cut.
where Ross gets a spray tan and it goes too dark because he was saying Mississippi in his count. And so when the tanner says, "I told you to count to 10," he goes, "Mississippilously?" So now if there's a bourbon that's not down the Mississippi River, I'm just going to call it the Mississippilously bourbon.
So we like this. Let's
Yes.
let's jump into what we're actually here to talk about. Not just bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is delicious bourbon though. So we saw Ford V Ferrari.
Yes, we did.
So if you don't know what Ford V Ferrari is, which is crazy because their marketing is all over the place, it is essentially the story about how Ford wanted to beat Ferrari at Le Mans in 1966. I mean, it's Carroll Shelby. What's Ken Miles?
Yeah.
You know, their struggles to get Ford up to speed.
If I can jump in as someone who knew nothing about this
Was
all.
that a bad joke?
No, it's not a
It was
bad joke.
it was a bad
it's just,
joke.
It's not
It was
the
a
greatest
terrible
explanation for someone who knows nothing about racing.
I felt like it was a very generalized but accurate description.
You can say that all you want. Sorry. Okay. So as someone who knows nothing about racing, I will just say as a short description, apparently Le Mans is a very big race that lasts 24 hours, and Ford's sales were declining, and thus they wanted to find a way to get back into the game. So Lee Iacocca suggests that they build a car that can beat Ferrari, and this is the struggle of which them trying to accomplish that task.
Holy shit, it's almost like you write for a living.
Oh my God, what? Elena Kremen, look me up. Google. Just kidding.
She's famous.
I'm not famous. Okay.
But your parents are proud of you.
Well, that's all that matters, isn't it?
All right, so
Brag about
yeah,
it.
no, it's a good old American tale about
Spiteful.
you know, that can-do American spirit, being a maverick and doing it your own way and sticking it to the man. But more importantly than sticking it to the man, sticking it to foreigners. I kind of feel like that's what this was.
Yeah, something.
I mean,
that.
the head of Ford uses racial slurs to describe the head of Ferrari.
I feel like that's getting
does.
into spoilers.
Yeah.
Is it really, though?
I didn't know about that before going into the
Did
movie.
I just ruin something from someone? Someone's gonna be in the movie and be like,
Hey,
"That's it.
by
This
the
moment
way,
was ruined."
in the 60s, there was racism.
Look
In
it up.
2019, there was racism.
Look it up.
No, we had a black president. It's over. Okay.
Look it up.
Demonetized.
All right. So general thoughts. Elena, you didn't know anything about Le Mans. You didn't even know it
Nothing.
existed.
Nope.
You don't know anything about race cars, despite being from North Carolina.
I'm so smart right now.
I mean,
guys.
you know that
He's
there are
making me
things
sound great.
such as cars, and they race against each
I
other.
have a white one.
So, what did you think about this racing movie?
I would say my biggest takeaway from this racing movie is I will never own a Ford ever in my life.
Wait, what?
I left this movie hating the Ford Motor Company.
I'm not sure that was the desired intent of the filmmakers.
I don't think it was, but that's how I left the movie feeling. They call it Ford versus Ferrari. And by the way, we should clarify, it's Ford versus Ferrari in America and Canada. It's
Right.
called Le Mans 66 in most other countries, and I think there's one other name for it in another country.
I mean, it's an accurate title.
It is an accurate title.
Like Transformers is an accurate title for a movie about things that transform. I don't know why.
I don't
it was an
understand.
analogy.
There's a correlation here.
Because, I mean,
explain
cars-
yourself.
There's cars.
Explain
Bumblebee
yourself.
Turns into a car. Clearly,
I'm just saying, like, you name something like Le Mans 66 or 1966,
Sure.
right?
'Cause
That
that's
is,
the
Le
event.
Mans 66.
that's the event. It's the most generalized description. The only thing you could name it more generalized would be cars.
That's taken.
Disney gets real Sue happy.
By the way, I like Cars. It's a movie that really grew on me.
Did
many
anyone
times
else
did you
think
watch
watching
Cars?
this movie was just thinking of Luigi from Cars going, I only watch the Ferraris?
Luigi follow on with the Ferraris.
I did see somebody describe Ford versus Ferrari as Luigi side-eye racing in the movie.
Nice.
And I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a fair assessment.
So, but did you like the movie?
I did like the movie.
Despite not liking Ford now.
No. So, yes, I did like the movie. I enjoyed the movie. Will I ever watch the movie again? Probably not. But I enjoyed it for what it was.
Nice.
Yeah.
Travis?
I did like the movie. I also don't know much about racing.
Shocking.
Yeah, I know. Whew. But I feel like the movie did a good job of like expressing how difficult and how like the reputation of the Le Mans like race was, even having not ever watched it or really looked into it or had any interest in it before, being like, oh man, that sounds difficult and prestigious and like not something I'm into, but I could see where people are like, yeah, no, this is the Triple Crown of whatever. Triple Crown is also something I'm not super like
So you can start talking in these terms and
yeah.
it sound like you know what you're talking about now.
But I felt like the movie did a good job of not like weighing it down with like technical details of racing. There's enough like jargon in there. They're talking about like, oh, he's got this stuff, and that we need to fix the flux capacitor or whatever. I was like, yeah, that sounds right.
I don't think they said flux capacitor.
No, they didn't.
And they went faster than 88 miles an hour, and they never went back in time.
Well, they didn't have a
Or
flux
back
capacitor.
This is true.
Yeah.
And there was not a single goddamn DeLorean in this whole movie.
Okay, you got me. I don't know any of the technical jargon.
Why is there no DeLoreans at Le Mans in 1966? Answer for that, James Mangold.
They weren't created till 1985.
God damn it,
Yeah.
you ruined it.
Sorry.
But even though I didn't understand a lot of the technical car like stuff they were talking about, it still like didn't weigh it down. I wasn't like going, I don't know what anyone's talking about, I'm gonna check out. But it was just enough to have it be like, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They're doing this, and that's probably a problem that needs for them to fix so they can make the car go faster.
Make the zoom
Yeah.
zoom go
Yeah.
zoom zoom.
So, when you left the theater, did you want to drive really fast?
I did.
Did you?
Yeah, but that happens with all car-themed movies. Like, I can watch most of the Fast and the Furious films, and the back half of that series really has very little to do with car racing. And I'm like, gotta go fast.
I want to drive fast and punch people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made me really want to break out my N64 and play Rush. Like, really badly. Like, I really wanted to get all of those Mountain Dew cans in
I'd
Rush.
say
Like, I just really wanted to play it.
a lot of people
really
go
bad.
for Mario Kart. You're like going with Rush.
Yeah, I was going with Mario
Yeah.
Kart.
Real niche N64.
N64, best console of all time. Hot take.
I really like this movie, despite, it's 2 hours and
35.
like 35 minutes.
30
Yeah,
minutes,
it's 2.5 hours long. Sometimes it feels like it. But unlike most other car movies, this does a really good job at putting you in the seat. Like in the opening shot, this isn't spoiling anything. They open with one of the characters at Le Mans, and he's having a hard time because Le Mans is 24 hours and you drive at night and you really feel the exhaustion. And then when they go to, it's not Daytona, towards the end of the movie.
Daytona
it is Daytona.
before.
They do
Yeah,
Daytona,
Daytona. You and I were talking about this earlier. It's intense, and you
Yeah.
feel it. And and at Le Mans, when there's spoiler, some people crash. It's intense, and I wasn't in the seats that move, but I felt it. But more than anything, Matt Damon and Christian Bale basically carry the movie.
Mm-hmm.
If this was pretty much anyone else, probably would be unwatchable.
Yeah, it is the heart of this film.
It's hella charming. It's a really charming movie. It tries really hard to be one of the cool movies this year, and I think it largely succeeds. It's in a lot of ways a movie they don't make anymore. It feels like a very like a 90s kind of campy, kind of had the moments where it almost like they wink at the camera.
It was like a 90s baseball movie, but with cars.
Right. But done better than 90s movies. It's a little more sophisticated. I think with really good acting and solid direction. I think the script was a little weak.
It's an inspirational sports movie. There's a formula to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I even though I kind of knew at a basic level how this story ends, I was somewhat familiar with the story. I still left the theater completely pumped. And I don't want to spoil anything. This movie goes a little longer. It overstays its welcome a little bit. There's a point where it should end, and then like what would normally be the epilogue that comes up on the screen, they just decided, why don't we just film that? And that's kind of what I felt like. But if you know the history, it doesn't really spoil anything. You know where the movie's going. It's a somewhat predictable movie in a lot of sense, but that doesn't spoil the ride. I really enjoyed it, and I think that if you're looking for a fun, cool American movie to see this weekend, if you want to see America kick Italy's ass in something,
Spoiler alert.
but they win. Like, is anyone going in not expecting America to win?
I mean,
You see this
you
part
don't know.
here where it says
Spoilers right there.
The next part
Okay,
of
I
the
thought we
segment.
solved this in the last episode. I can't read.
We wrote.
I mean, can you just draw pictures next time?
Okay, so the monkey wearing a hat means don't talk.
All right, let's jump into spoilers.
Spoils.
Before we get into the details of that, Elena, you had a very interesting movie-going experience.
I did. It was very different from your guys' movie experience
we
for the exact same movie.
I saw it with digital projection and the superior sound, and it was wonderful. But that wasn't enough for you, was it?
Well, I didn't know at the time that
mean,
I was buying a ticket for this particular
One
type
wall
of movie.
wasn't enough.
One wall was apparently not
Two
enough.
walls. were not enough for you, Elena.
Two? Who needs two when you can have three? That's my question. So I actually saw...
What about 4 walls?
Oh my
Nope, too many.
God,
We're not
ceiling.
owls. We can't turn around.
Bring it back down. Three.
So I
three's the max.
I saw Ford versus Ferrari in a Screen X movie theater, and for people who don't know what that is, which 100% of the people I've talked to about this
I
experience
was
did
going to
not
say,
know what
included
this
2/3
is.
of this table nigh an hour ago.
Yes, and everybody in my theater did not know what it was. We were all like, what the fuck is happening right now? Essentially, a Screen X movie theater is something that was tested in the UK in 2018, and essentially what it is the projector is not just on the screen. There are other projectors that project excess of the movie onto the walls. So the way I was explaining this to people is it's not like the same movie, like the same image is going on the front and to the sides. It's that there is an additional footage that was shot in the movie to expand that around you. So
It's
you
a
have
panoramic view.
A panoramic
They
view.
essentially have a camera facing forward, which would be your normal perspective, and
Yes.
then a camera 90 degrees from each.
Yes. However, that was only for the racing scenes.
But where else would you want it, really?
It was a little jarring. People have asked me if I liked it. I will say that I do think people would really enjoy this movie seeing it that way. Because the racing scenes are even that much more intense, and there actually is a point in the movie where Christian Bale's character, Ken Miles, I believe,
Yes.
says, you know, when he points out something to his son, and his son says, well, how can you tell when you're driving? Aren't you driving so fast? And he says, when you're driving, everything becomes like bigger. It surrounds you. So seeing the movie that way actually like really emphasized that point, which was nice. I will say at the same time, there are moments where he is racing and it's all around you, and then it cuts to his son watching the race, and all of the walls around you go black, and then it's only black for like 2 seconds, and then it switched back to the racing, and we're back in panoramic. And so that can be a little bit jarring.
Yeah,
so
but
you
from a
don't like
narrative perspective,
experience.
that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's really cool. I will say, if you're going to see a movie that way, if you have a theater near you that does it, sit in the middle. Do not sit towards the back. I started in the middle, but I had 2 people who were talking very loudly near me, so I had to move to the back, and that changed the experience completely, because at that point, you're looking at everything towards you. You're not surrounded by the movie anymore, so it does change that experience a little bit. So pro tip, if you do see a Screen X movie in any sort of movie, especially for Ford versus Ferrari, sit in the middle. Do not sit towards the back.
That's kind of the rule with any movie, though. Like 3D
Yeah.
or just
is
a
the
standard. You want to sit
optimum
halfway
place to
back, dead center.
That's pretty much what I always try to do. I would say with this type of experience, it's especially important that you sit in the middle or more towards the front, because if you don't, the whole thing with Screen X is supposed to be your peripherals are included in this. And if you're all the way towards the back, you're not getting anything in that peripheral vision because everything's
You're just
in front of
seeing
you.
everything.
Makes total sense.
And so like everything's a little bit off, it changes it a little bit. So pro tip, make sure in a Screen X movie you are sitting in the middle, or else the experience is going to be completely different.
Well, at least know what you're buying, because I wouldn't have known what Screen X was.
I had no idea. But it was interesting. I enjoyed it.
Into spoilers, there were a lot of really special moments in this movie that were not just really well acted, but they were really well directed and particularly well shot. This is a movie that it's been a great year for cinematography, and this is no exception.
Yeah.
Beautifully shot, and there's moments in the movie, such as what you were talking about at the racetrack when he's talking about his son, and he says, you know, this crack in the road is this particular moment at Le Mans, right? Beautifully shot, the pacing is fantastic, but then when he gets in the car, it's intense and uncomfortable, and you feel it, and not just because, you know, you're surrounded by screens, but it's so immersive. You kind of feel like Henry Ford II. Which was kind of one of the more painful movies or moments because it felt very 90s, very kind of a wink at the audience, you know what I mean, and a little overacted.
So for anyone who doesn't know what Jason's talking about, because you haven't seen the movie yet.
No, we're in spoilers.
Oh, but I don't know.
That's
Maybe
true.
they're okay with spoilers.
So if you haven't seen the movie and you haven't seen the trailers,
Is that in the trailers?
It is in one of the trailers, yeah. Carroll Shelby, when he's trying, I shouldn't say why he's doing. Well, we're in spoilers, fuck it. He's trying to convince Henry, right?
Henry Ford II.
The Deuce.
To allow Ken Miles to drive in Le Mans with their car. And so he locks one of the VP in his office, and then takes Mr. Ford out on the track and drives like crazy. Ford basically shits himself and starts crying.
Yeah.
And that's what we're referencing. It is a fun moment. The theater I was in, everyone laughed. They liked it.
I think it's important to say, though, he doesn't start, like, when he first starts crying, you think it's because he's scared. But you find out the reason he starts crying is because he wishes his dad could have experienced that.
You think
could
so?
have known.
Yeah,
he
that's what he
says
says
that. He literally says, I didn't know. I wish my dad was still around to know
he's like,
what this is like.
Yeah, no,
I guess I misunderstood what he was trying to say.
You have in that car, the raw power behind a race
Okay,
car.
I guess I misinterpreted what he was saying.
Yeah.
I was too taken out by the
crying.
No, that was like the real humanizing moment for him.
Even though he's kind of a dick.
Yeah, he's a real asshole.
And a
through
racist.
The whole
Gee,
movie. Yeah.
I wonder why Elena would never want to own a Ford after seeing this
He
movie.
doesn't still own the company. For me, this movie was a bit about the friendship between the two main characters, Christian Bale and Matt Damon. They did a fantastic job having that chemistry between each other, the parts in the trailer where they get into a fight on the lawn, and Miles' wife comes out and just like pulls out a lawn chair and watches, like, this is something to do. They don't show
that was in the trailer, though.
Yeah, I didn't mind it, but I also liked, they're sitting there fighting and the groceries go everywhere. At what point Shelby grabs like a can of soup and is like, no, I don't want to hit my friend with that. And then grabs the bread and starts hitting him with a loaf of bread.
But then he like grabs him by the nipple or the boob.
He called it his llama bite or something.
Llama bite.
You named it?
Which means he's done that before.
Yeah, and so there felt like there was a real bond of friendship there, and that's what this movie's about. It's these two friends from the very beginning.
And that mutual respect.
Yeah, Miles goes, oh, you're going to try and work for Ford. They're going to find a way to screw you over. They're going to like have your nuts in a vice from the very beginning because that's what they do. And you're trying to beat Ferrari, who's won this race 4 years running. That's a giant to beat.
And they only make like 100 cars a year or whatever.
Yeah, they spend all of their time and money researching perfection of this racing like automobile.
And you make ugly cars and ugly factories.
Ugly factories and stuff. So it's really about those two guys, and you're not, I don't think, supposed to be rooting for Ford. I think you're just supposed to be rooting for those guys trying to live their dream by whatever means necessary.
Carroll Shelby bets his company against Ford.
Yeah.
Right. And as an opportunity to get Ken Miles into Le Mans, he says if he takes first at the Daytona 500.
Well, and it's because he kept saying, you want the best driver.
Right.
Miles is the driver for you. You want to win at Le Mans, you can do that. And they're like, well, he's not, a company man. We can't put him on TV or whatever. We want this guy to be the driver. He's like, then you'll lose.
Right.
And they're like, well, we're going to do it anyway. So he had to, force them into,
what's interesting,
getting what they needed to win.
Based on the ending, Ford still would have won.
Yeah.
Because Ford got...
Well, you could say,
but he did beat several records.
If Miles hadn't been, pushing against the Ferrari, drivers, they wouldn't have been pushing.
Yeah. Or not overheat. I don't know cars.
Blow a gasket of some sort.
He did not finish the race.
Yeah, his car.
Because he went at over 7,000 RPMs.
But yeah, no, again, it's the formula for an inspirational sports film. It's got the, sports is the catalyst to telling a story about family or a community of some sort.
It's a bromance.
Yeah, and then if you look at some of the other, best sports films of all time, you got Cinderella Man is, a boxer who's trying to get through the Depression and do what he can to feed his family and keep his, children, with him. And then you've got Remember the Titans is about racism in small town communities and families there and, kind of overcoming diversity and other, problems of that era. Problems of today.
Totally.
So those are kind of the relatable moments that make it a movie worth seeing for a broad audience.
Yeah, it's a very personal movie.
But this one, it's just about these two friends, and then.
Well, it's hard to overstate the charisma and the on-screen likability of Matt Damon and Christian Bale.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic.
They are the movie in this. And Christian Bale's wife. I'll have to look her up. Molly, but what's the actress's name?
She's right there.
Yeah, but I'm looking at that and I don't know if I can pronounce it. How would you say?
She was fantastic.
She was didn't have a lot of lines, but she was great. It's one of those weird Irish names. Are you Irish?
I am.
Are you?
I am.
I'm Scotch Irish in that, and I don't.
I think it's Catrona Balfe. Catrona.
She was great.
I didn't recognize her from anything else, but I loved her.
She was in Outlander.
What? She's that actress in Outlander?
Do you like Outlander?
I mean, I watched the first 2 episodes of Outlander. It's a little too softcore porn for me, but
I thought it was too mommy porn for me.
it's very mommy porn. Like, if you are above 45 and you're looking for something that's not porn, but it's like right on the edge
It's
of porn,
This has been
porn.
and
What's
you like
Mom
time
Porn?
travel, and you like Scottish men, oh,
I like
honey,
Scottish
do
men.
I got the show for you.
All right, so let's get into final thoughts. Travis.
I thought it was great.
That's
It's final.
Yeah.
2 words. Do you have more than 2 things to say about this movie?
I will never buy a Ford after this movie.
I think this is a great movie. I think if you like loud noises, fast cars, or charming actors, you should go see it. Whether you want to buy a Ford or not. It's well shot, it's well acted, it's well directed. The writing is at times great, at times not so great. The whiskey, however, I think is super interesting. How is your whiskey with copious amounts of ginger beer?
Delicious.
It's because all you taste is the ginger beer?
Yes,
And
it
ginger
is.
beer's fucking delicious. What do you think about Michters, what is this? Michters small batch, unblended American whiskey.
I liked it a lot. It was really good. Like I said, it's
Does it
in
taste
the
like the
beginning.
American flag? Bald eagles,
Well, I try not to lick the American flag.
jet skis,
a lot of-
I think there's
M16.
such
Some
a
people
good
hug
hope
them,
about
and
that.
it's
Does it taste like the tailpipe?
no
Ford?
What? Pure gasoline? No, it's got a nice complex flavor, but like I said, it mellows out like after that initial
It
hit,
hits you like-
and then it's real smooth, and like I could just sit here and sip this.
It's fun. This is definitely a sipping whiskey. It's definitely something I could drink while watching a movie, which I
Oh,
think
yeah.
I might do. I think I need to rewatch first episode of Mandalorian a few more times.
Sure.
And I'll drink this. If you liked what you saw, please hit subscribe. We really appreciate it. It means a lot to us. There's links below. Comment with your thoughts, anything you want to say, really. What we got right, which is probably something you said. What we
will
got
never
wrong,
buy a Ford.
which is, yes. Tell us why Elena's next car purchase should be a Ford. Particularly maybe a Ford pickup, like an F-250, something huge and monstrous. Something...
Just got recalled. F-150s just got
I
recalled.
said
That's why you said the 250.
Oh, sorry.
Pardon me, 350. Maybe you need a big truck
You
lifted.
can get like a 450. They use those for like small fire trucks at like music venues.
Perfect. I would. Can I talk real quick about why I would never buy a Ford? Real
Sure.
fast.
I think you've made that point quite a bit. I'd like to know the reason behind it.
I've
Sure.
said it enough, and
Would
you
you
guys
like a
have been
stick
confused
so you
about.
can keep beating this dead horse?
Oh my god! Look, if I say something and you don't let me explain why, it's gonna sound like
Explain
I'm
away.
just an
Please
asshole.
explain.
Okay, so here's my thing.
Elena,
No,
I
Ford.
really love that you're passionate about
I'm
this.
so mad.
And I hope you're this passionate about Frozen 2.
Oh man, fucking Elsa! My god!
This has been Whiskey Movie Club. Please hit subscribe if you liked Travis. Where can they find you?
You can find me at Captain Frucci.
If you want to see more hate-filled rants about Ford, where can they find you?
Follow hashtag fuck Ford.
You're the only one using it. There you go.
Perfect.
I'm Whiskey Movie Club, and I'm Whiskey Movie Club. I'm at Real Jason Miller, and I'm sure Michters does not endorse fuck Ford. This has been Whiskey Movie Club. Hit subscribe, and
Don't buy a Ford.
or buy a Ford.
Do whatever you want.
Cars, okay?
It's a movie.
It's just
Calm down.
the person who wrote this movie had never met him before because I don't think there was a lot of overlap in their lives.
Ford killed Jeffrey Epstein.
You know what? You're probably not wrong about that.